Board meeting to order for Thursday, October 7th at 5 p.m. Gonna get a roll call from my left, please.
Wiesinger here.
Minter here.
Asgo here.
Bowman here.
Number 3, certified posting of the meeting.
One moment. I certify that on Friday, October 1st, 2021, the agenda for the Town of Rome Board meeting for Thursday, October 7th, 2021 was emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 12:40 p.m., posted at Rome Town Hall at 12:45 p.m., at Pritzl's Trading Post at 12:55 p.m., and Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 12:50 p.m.
Thank you. Number 4, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve is printed.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 5, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 6, citizen comments. None presented, so we will dispense with number 6. No action contemplated except possible referral to future agenda. Number 7, information updates, meeting recaps, recent correspondence, current events, and announcements. Jerry, would you like to start?
I have nothing.
Dan?
I have nothing.
Just an update, Tri-Lakes will start conducting sediment borings on the 3 lakes in the next couple of weeks. Hay & Associates we came up with a plan of about 21 different borings in the area, so that's moving forward. That's all I've got.
2 things. The cost came back on the water utility expansion along Leisure and D to create a loop in our system here. I think they were a bit higher than we were anticipating, so that's on hold for the time being, but there's going to be alternatives explored to potentially serve the new house and the 4 or 5 properties along D there, majority of which have expressed interest in connecting. So the other thing, we had our first ambulance board meeting earlier this week. I think it went very well overall. All 3 towns are very much in alignment on the needs and desires going forward. Both of our chiefs were in attendance, as well as Deputy Carlson with the Sheriff's Office who oversees dispatch. All of them provided very valuable input. Our next meeting's on October 14th at 6 p.m. at Monroe. Should be ironing out most of the small details that we're going through, and hopefully bringing a proposal shortly thereafter for the towns to individually review. So,
Thank you.
Chairman, I have 3 items if I may.
Sure.
So Visit Rome did extend and has hired a new executive director. Her name is Lisa Kubis. I hope I said that right, Lisa Kubis. So she will start with Visit Rome on October 25th, just so you're all aware. Second is we have started, and it's been going well this last week, banner sales in Rome Town Center. So for $150, you can purchase a winter banner and put a sponsor on the bottom. We offered it first out to businesses, but now if there would be anyone else interested in the community, they could certainly put that it would, from the Gabert family, welcome to Rome on a seasonal banner. And the proceeds, what was that?
Sounds like an offer.
Yes. The proceeds from this go to purchase new holiday decorations for Rome Town Center. And then lastly, this Saturday, in Rome Town Center at the gazebo from 4 to 7, we have the pop-up concert to benefit the pavilion and bandshell being built, and we have very exciting news to share as part of the pop-up concert. But please, if you have some time, come out and listen to Southbound from 4 to 7 p.m. There'll be food trucks and beverages. Should be a good time. Weather's supposed to be 77 degrees.
Thank you. Discuss and possible action on the following items. Number 8, discussion and action, approval of the September 15th, 2021 budget meeting, number 1 minutes, and September 16th, 2021 town board meeting minutes. Can I get a motion, please?
I would make a motion to approve those as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Any corrections? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Number 9, discussion and possible action, Checks, vouchers, receipts, and journal entries. Approved checks number 43387 through 43502 totaling $369,428.07. Auto payments totaling $122,823.31. State Social Security Medicare withholdings totaling $34,764.12. Payroll vouchers V17696 through V17771 totaling $87,684.35, and checks numbers 21633 through 21634 totaling $270.95. Receipts numbers 22554 through 22641 totaling $155,328.74. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion, motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Discussion? I had a couple questions. On page 9, on the check register, we have, this is all referring to tippage fees and whatnot. We have tippage fees of $19,694 and $15,851. Do we have a comparison with this versus last year? Are we doing any better or same, or any idea where we're at on that?
We're doing better, we're
It is
doing
better.
slightly better, yeah.
Slightly? Okay.
We've been down,
So it's been an improvement.
yes.
Thank you. And then below that, Syracuse Park outlay, we have electric for cameras, $2,421.30. Is that for bringing electricity in?
No, it probably, that's maybe a Brad question, but it was probably just to get it to the area where they needed to hook it up. I mean, it was probably like getting it extended out, to the location so cameras could get plugged in. So, I mean, we had it out there, it probably just needed to get run further. And that would be covered as an operational expense through the grant.
Any consideration going solar? Just a thought for future. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 10, discussion of possible action, review 2022 Town of Rome budget.
Great.
You're
So, I sent in an email some follow-up pieces from our last meeting, which was an updated fire budget, an updated library budget, a ARPA, our American Recovery Act dollars budget, and Rome Water Utility. In addition to that, this evening on your desk, you would have found the EMS budget, because we pulled that out of fire and made it its own set of accounts in our chart of accounts, and then just an updated overall levy sheet. So just working through those pieces. The fire budget, as we discussed last time, takes out that 10,000, rolls that in to budgeting for a full-time chief. It wasn't quite enough for the whole year, and so as noted in the email, it starts a full-time chief February 1 of next year in order to equal out. It starts as February 1. Otherwise, that budget remains the same as you had previously saw. The library budget is very, very similar. There's a couple very small changes within revenues, but does not change the overall tax levy. But this budget was approved by the library board Friday last week. So this is a library board approved budget. The EMS district budget tonight, again, it's 2 pages and it's only 2 chart of accounts. It's bringing in that property tax levy of the $197,000 and then paying that out as the retainer fee and an expense. But again, pulls it out of fire and puts it into its own chart of accounts. ARPA, again, that's just the money that we've been provided. We did already receive half of that, which is $144,000. We will receive the other half early next summer, and we have until 2024 to commit those funds. And we've started that discussion, but we can continue that discussion after we get through budget on where we'd like to allocate those funds. And there's certainly been a lot of sharing between municipalities on what they're spending those funds for too. So we would have a lot of examples to share on what other municipalities are doing. So all of those budgets, again, are pretty similar to what you saw last time. I don't know if there's questions on those. The last budget is that Rome water utility budget. This is your first time seeing that one. Chad is here tonight if there are questions. Water utilities budget does look a little bit different than the other budgets because that chart of accounts is held over at the water utility. So it doesn't appear in the same format as our other budgets do. But if you had questions on that budget, I'm sure that Chad can answer them.
Chad, can you just give us a brief synopsis of the capital projects for 2022?
Come on up to the mic, Chad.
They don't look very significant compared to prior years, but
No,
I know
just
that's how it
because
goes.
of, we have a project which is our SCADA system, that's our alarm system and everything that runs our wells. That was put in 2007. It's really a computer system. They're looking at $55,000 to replace it all. So that's the capital project that we were doing. I did take out hydrants and we didn't get to replacing hydrants, which we usually do every year. I kind of took those out for next year, not knowing where we're gonna be on that project of Highway D. So if we had to take some money out of capital to do that project, we still have some money and I'm not spending it all.
okay. That's all I was wondering about. Thanks.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
So with that, I just wanna cover a couple last things. I just wanna re-mention, cause we talked about it early on and it's been included in all of the budgets, but this final product of property tax levy then would reflect that 197 that we would be asking, the electors to exceed the levy cap, that 197,000. It would include that the 3% raise, it includes the wellness initiative that we talked about early on. It includes the capital projects that we've addressed through the budget. So we would, at this moment, if we're comfortable with how this is assembled, we don't necessarily need a motion tonight. How the process would handle it is our next agenda item is talking about exceeding that levy limit. That's a resolution. That resolution needs to have a legal notice afterwards that it was approved. Then we would do also the legal notice for the annual meeting on the 28th. You would approve that date tonight of the, budget hearing and electors meeting on the 28th. And we would do a legal notice also for that. At that meeting that night, the electors would approve the total levy cost. That vote is of the total levy. There wouldn't be an option to say oh, 50,000 less or 50,000 more. It has to be for the levy that's printed as part of the notice, which would be the 3,423,000 that's reflected on your sheet. And then we would schedule a meeting, we have in the past anyways, directly after that electors meeting. And then the town board votes on the budget, and that's the budget as a whole, including the levy, but all of the items that are included in the budget.
Okay, so we don't need to take action on this, but anybody have any other questions?
At one of our meetings, I think September 15th, it was a future agenda item to talk more about the wellness program in detail. I'd still like to hear what the plans are for that. If you're not prepared tonight, that's fine, but.
I think, but just as long as we know we're in agreement to offer the wellness program, we do have a draft of what that program might look like. But I can certainly bring back, once we have a more finalized draft, to say this is how we would envision that plan rolling out, or here are the items that we would ask people to participate in. Yes.
Yep, that's great.
Okay.
Lori?
Lori Chimani, 1647 Hornet Trail. I know the library approved their budget, but as a citizen, I would like to speak to you tonight on their behalf. The library is a vital service to our community and to the residents and visitors alike. Community programming lately has been vast and increased over the years since our new librarian is there. It's not so new anymore. but it was truly a benefit during the lockdown, which many people could take advantage of, and there was an increase in the circulation. Her library programming with her staff is exceptional, and the expanded hours of 9 hours daily and 5 hours on Saturday allow for greater community access and engagement in the programming, and a substantial increase in her circulation has all been accomplished by her and her creative staff. The staff in comparison to other town staff and our fellow Leicester libraries in Nakusa and Vesper are quite low. I would request that you take a serious look at this on behalf of our citizens and our community, because the library means a lot to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. Fellow Leicester public libraries in Nakusa and Vesper, their librarians make over $50,000 a year. Other comparables around the state, which she's been asked to do in the past, go anywhere from $48,000 to $52,000 a year. And other part-time staff assistants are starting at 18 and 19. These assistants are now coming up to what the Derek Hughes and the transfer site employees are making. So I would please ask you to seriously consider paying these well-deserving staff an addition and important asset to our community, an increase in 2022. Thank you.
Did you bring these issues up at the library board meetings?
Yes, I did, at the last
The
one.
library board's well aware of it.
I know
Okay.
that, yes.
Anybody have any questions?
And there was a market increase that was made last year to those positions, and I think as was indicated tonight that the part-time staff are brought up to the same as the other part-time staff, so they're equal across this year.
Okay, so we're done with 10?
As long as we're feeling good about the budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty. Number 11, discussion and possible action, approval of resolution number 21, town board proposing to exceed levy limit via special town elector meeting. Can I get a motion, please?
Move to approve the resolution requesting an exceeding of the levy limit.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I would just indicate tonight at your seats, there was a frequently asked questions. There will be one change to this after tonight, but I wanted you to have an opportunity to see it and review it and let me know if you had additional changes or additional questions. But then I'd send a file to all of the supervisors, and we would publish this as an educational piece for the meeting on the 28th.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Number 12, discussion and possible action establishing the date and time for the annual budget meeting, hearing, and special town meeting as Thursday, October 28th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Number 13, discussion and possible action, approval of resolution number 21, Adams County redistricting plan, including Town of Rome, Ward Division, and designating polling place.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second. This is in alignment with what we ultimately requested, right?
It is very much in alignment with what we ultimately requested. The only thing that you didn't see from last time is our ward division.
That's what confused me.
Yeah, we came, Amy and I worked on that ward division, because you can't have more than 1,000 people in any district, and we have one that's slightly over, so.
And polling place, nothing's changing, that's still the
It's,
village.
all of our polling places are here.
Okay.
Which is noted in the resolution.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Number 14, discussion and possible action, approval of updated law enforcement services agreement with the town of Big Flats.
So you do have an updated agreement in your packet tonight. I would point out that we do already have this agreement in place with Big Flats. We've had it in place for about a year. I don't know that Big Flats has ever really utilized the agreement, but we do have it in place. What's different about this one and the one we currently have in place is that the rate is less. We had started at a $70 an hour rate, and this is a $50 an hour rate. That's the only change. Otherwise, this agreement is in place now.
Point 7, does the review date need to change?
Yeah, it says 2020.
We can update that.
Jason, do you have anything to add on this?
No, they haven't utilized it. We're just lowering the price because this is more office type work that they would look at. It's really not. The county sheriff's department covers major crimes and stuff that would happen there. This is more us helping them with ordinance issues. I don't see much usage.
Yes, and the request for police to go is through their chairman. So it isn't that they would generally be calling the Rome Police Department and requesting it. It would have to come through their town chairman.
Can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the updated law enforcement services agreement with Town of Big Flats.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Number 15, discussion of possible action, approval of law enforcement services agreement with the town of Monroe.
This would be a new agreement. Town of Monroe also had requested what an agreement would look like. Town of Monroe hasn't approved this yet. They would be taking it up at a future meeting. But I would, when that would occur, I would let them know whether approved or not approved by our town board. Again, by request of the chairman, they would ask, one topic that they have discussed often is a certain road within the township and maybe having a police presence there occasionally to help slow down traffic, which is something that could be arranged with our police department when staffing would allow.
Jason, anything to add? No?
And the date would be updated again in that, this one, actually the reason that that date was that is, it was originally discussed, I believe, last summer, and it's just been a little bit of time between them formally asking for this. So we are at that point. We'll update the date if you do approve it.
Can I get a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the law enforcement services agreement with Town of Monroe.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 16, discussion of possible action, approval of discharge permits for hunting on town-owned property.
So there was a memo for me within your packet. It was requested that we would just revisit this topic. There aren't a lot of parcels that are more 15 acres or more in the town. And so we wanted to revisit the conversation when it comes to hunting on town-owned property. If it is these larger parcels, that sort of limits down how many there are available to hunt on. You still could hunt on those larger parcels, but when you had 2 or 3 people request, then you would simply have to say there are no additional permits and to try again in the future. So I'm not sure if Chief wants to add anything more.
Pardon?
I guess my only comment is this has gone back and forth. So one of the parcels we'd have is Derek-Hughes, and I spoke with the Director of Public Works. There's a fence around that particular parcel. There's concern that people hunting there would damage said fence going over it and whatnot. There's other parcels that a lot of people want hunting, but they don't want it in their backyard. So this has been somewhat problematic. We've kind of gone full circle on this. We had hunting and these permits were stopped just due to that reason that, one landowner wants to hunt, their neighbor 2 houses down likes to watch the wildlife, and here a deer comes that's been stuck by a hunter. And like Jamie said, there's very few parcels. We have the parcel over by the church over here, but other than that, there's no interest from management here of people hunting on the transfer site land. That's the other big parcel that we have. So we really don't have parcels that suit activity. We've issued a couple permits this year for over by the church. My recommendation would be after those permits expire that we go back to how it was before and just don't issue the hunting permits, just because it's problematic. I mean, I went to issue some and, hey, I don't want them issued here. I live here and don't want hunting, and I'm in the middle of a tug of war on it, and that's why it was discontinued in the past.
And this is strictly archery.
Yes, we haven't issued any firearm permits. There was years ago firearm hunting at Syracuse, but again, it was stopped just for that reason, that the people going in there had keys, and that wasn't fair to people that didn't have keys, and the fence would be damaged if you allowed people to hunt that didn't have keys. So that was the last go around when it all was canceled, was due to that fencing issue there, and that was really the only parcel that they were concentrated on the last time when we issued permits. They all were out there. We didn't issue any for the church because it was gun hunting and no one for archery had asked. But
The only other point we should just clarify is that there is county forest land here in town, and when it's enrolled into county forest, it has to allow hunting. So it would still be a possibility that you would see archery and shotgun on those parcels, and the county doesn't regulate that, right? It just has to be available for that. So you would still see individuals hunting on those parcels, and if we added more to county forest land, that would be part of the agreement of enrolling it.
You also have state land over on 9th Avenue.
that's kind of my stance. Those lands, it's first come, first served, and you follow hunting rules, but I'm kind of put in the middle of this permit thing. How do I determine who gets a permit? The first person out of the gate that walks in here, they get a permit, and then somebody comes in late October and says, I want to hunt there, and I have to say no, and they say, well, why is this person, they've hunted there 3 years in a row. Now I've asked, why can't I hunt there, and how would I manage that to determine who gets a permit and who doesn't for the very limited parcels that we have? It hasn't been a problem what we have so far, but it very easily could be a problem in the future. And the more we talk about it, people trickle into my office and ask for a permit. So my recommendation again would be the permits that are issued are good. Next year we don't issue any.
So do we really need to do anything with this because we approved it for this year?
I think tonight we would look for a motion to say that we discontinue hunting on town-owned property after 2021.
After the current permits
Yep.
expire.
Somebody wanna come up with a motion for that one?
Doesn't the town ordinance already prohibit hunting on town-owned property?
I think it allows for archery.
With the exception of these permits, and I was told to get guidance from the board, so that's why I was here the first time, and so now my recommendation is I don't issue them anymore, and you guys had said to issue them, so I just want that confirmed by the board that we're not gonna issue any further permits.
I guess I wish we would have known that it was such a problem in the first place, but
Well, last year it wasn't.
Last
We
year
did-
it wasn't, but and that's how it went, you know, when we did this before, we had several years where it wasn't a problem, then all of a sudden it became a problem. So we did it last year, it wasn't a problem. This year, it became a problem. It's just the nature of who hears about it and who wants a permit, and then people that live in those areas hear that, oh, hunting permits are gonna be issued, and they don't care for that. So then my phone rings, why are you gonna issue permits for people to hunt here? And that's how it became an issue this year. I think people were watching the meeting and didn't care for some of the areas that were applied for.
What do we allow now on acreage? How many hunters per acreage or?
1 per 15.
1 per 15.
I personally I'm not ready to make a motion one way or another on this one. I'd like to see where these parcels are and what abuts them and things like that. That's my personal position.
Well, I would go along with the chief's recommendation if he's saying it gets to be a major controversy all the time, and we just go back to no hunting on town-owned property. Would be my recommendation.
Well, we'd be going back to not issuing the permits, that's, I mean, we didn't adjust the ordinance, I don't believe, last time, we just had a conversation about really policy for
Okay.
issuance of the permits.
And I guess that's where I stand on it, unless I'm directed by the town board to issue further permits in the future, I'll leave this informational, I'm not gonna issue any more permits because it's been problematic and I don't know how to filter those complaints. Those people, I mean, look, if they come here and the town board approves their permit, so be it, but how do I decide who gets a permit and who doesn't? And now I've issued 2 for over by the church there. I can just see my phone ringing on Monday morning and, hey, I don't want people hunting back there, my property abuts that and I like watching the deer and stuff. Chief, why'd you issue those permits? And that's the position I'm
Where are the complaints coming?
put in.
Is it from the permit holders because there's too many permits issued, or
Several individuals asked to hunt in the Sherwood Forest. Property owners that own property on the Sherwood Forest found out that we were gonna issue permits for that thing and my phone blew up over it, that concerned neighbors that don't want it.
I had several complaints too,
So,
especially on Sherwood Forest, because it's so narrow that anything gets shot there is gonna go in somebody's yard and die.
and town administration decided that they don't want Derek Hughes and the transfer site open for the reasons I previously addressed. The other parcel we have is the one by Woodland Church, but
How big is
it's
that
40
parcel?
acres, so you can have, 3 people hunt on it. How do you decide which 3 are gonna get
Actually,
to
it's
hunt
down,
on that?
it's less than 40,
A
it's
little less than
35 maybe now at the most.
Sir?
Yeah, my name is Tom Kemper, I've applied
Okay, come to
for
this.
permits. Tom Kemper here, I've applied and got permits, and I can abide with whatever rules you guys got, I don't really care. But to me, it's getting into the point where I got an anti-hunter telling me I can't hunt. When's that gonna stop? That's the only question I got. Cause I'll abide by you guys' rules, I don't really care. I just thought I had a nice place to hunt, I'm crippled up and, yeah, so be it. But that's the question I got. When does the anti-hunter stop?
and I'm looking at it from the perspective of I know there are people in a certain part of the Camelot area down in the peninsula there where there's an overpopulation of deer and they'd like to see a special hunt in there. So, I mean, this whole thing's got to be balanced somehow, and I don't know.
Personally, I'd like to study a little more, see where we're at, because size of the lots, different lots. I mean, if it's really narrow, I think that might be a problem. That could be an issue. I agree.
I mean, the permit's already issued for this year. We're not going to renege on that.
No.
So,
Right.
No, but my question is tomorrow morning, if somebody walks in my office and says, I want a permit, or I mean, I need some direction from the town board here. Sherwood Forest is the hot topic area right now, and permits were put on hold for that pending the outcome of this meeting. And as Jerry said, he's gotten calls, I've gotten calls from people that are in opposition of it. So what do I tell them? Do I just cut the permits then, or we need to make some kind of decision here?
there
Are we
will be
gonna-
people hunting there this year regardless of what we tell you to do tonight. So, what's the response to those folks then?
Well, shouldn't be hunting there unless they got a permit,
We've already issued permits.
not for there.
Not for there.
Right,
Oh.
but we've already
So
issued
that-
permits for the other town parcel. I don't know that,
Correct.
I'm not comfortable with disallowing the Sherwood Forest. I don't even know where the Sherwood, I live on Lake Sherwood, I don't even know where the Sherwood Forest is, somebody's gotta show me sometime. I've heard about it, but I've never seen it, maybe I have. I don't see that, yeah, and, it's always gonna be that case, there's always gonna be people who like the deer and like to see the deer and don't wanna see the deer get killed, but then we have the other side where there gets to be too many deer, and that's not good either. There's no way to balance that because that's just the changing demographics of the town as residents change. And people move in, people move out. I think if we've given up permits for other town parcels this year under this policy, I think we need to issue permits for Sherwood Forest under this policy. Unless there's a reason
Or we could
because of
just
the-
exclude it.
How wide, I mean, you're saying it's narrow, what's narrow?
Well, you can see across it.
Yeah, you can see across it very easy. I can see neighbor's backyard on the other side.
And archery's
the
good for
issue,
what,
is-
100 yards at max?
Well, it's not,
Even that?
yeah,
It's-
it's
yeah,
not so
how
much the
dense are you?
safety issue as it is when a deer is shot with a bow and arrow, it doesn't die immediately. It's gonna that front. It's gonna end up in somebody's property and bleed out in their backyard. Well,
That's part of the
kids watching
reason, that's part of the reason this was stopped before. When it stopped, there was a deer running around on the golf course over on Arrowhead with an arrow sticking out of it, and it ran around for several weeks with an arrow sticking out of it, and that's when they said, I mean, I don't have the time to sit and take people to an archery range and see if they're a good shot or not a good shot. They come in, apply for a permit, they may not have shot a bow in 5 years, and then they stick a deer in the hindquarters and it goes into the neighbor's feedlot. Brad had mentioned up north of us, the archery club deals with that and makes people test before they get a permit that they're an accurate shot. I just don't have the time or manpower to deal with that, but that's where the complaints last time came from, is deer that were injured. There was more than one that was injured and, like Jerry said, wandered into people's front yard with an arrow sticking out of it, eating at their bird feeder or whatever else. It'd be one thing if we were gonna allow hunting on derrick use where you have some big acreage or around the transfer site, but the Sherwood Forest is small acreage. This over by the church, like Jerry said, isn't even 40 acres, and I'm fine with the people that we issued the permits to already, and that's the only parcel we issued them for last year when the board started allowing this, was over there. But like I warned the board last year when we were gonna cross this bridge, I said, this is gonna open a can of worms, because the first year it's fine that these 3 people came in, but the next year it's gonna be more. And that's exactly what happened the last time
Well,
we did it.
That's an easy solution. You set a date, you set a, first come, first serve, or a lottery or something something along that line. So, first come, first serve is, I think, a real easy solution on that with a specific date, start date. But I kind of agree. We're right in the middle of it right now. I don't know. We've got till next year to decide on this, but I think we need to come up with something on Sherwood.
And outside of the church, I mean, the town does own other parcels, but they're 2-acre parcels. They're right-of-way parcels. These ones that we've mentioned are really the only ones.
Can't we just exclude Sherwood Forest at this point to limit that problem?
Yeah, it's barely 15
These
acres,
guys
too.
sound like they're happy with what they have, so.
Yeah, and I'm most definitely not saying to eliminate, but the gentleman in attendance, that parcel's full. There's already enough hunters. There's more than one person that applied for a permit. So over by the church, I have permits issued that cover that acreage. So other than Sherwood Forest or other places this year, that's why I said I needed an answer on the Sherwood Forest. That's where people asked. They haven't been issued a permit yet. The permits for the acreage that I was told are full over on our other parcel, and certainly I don't think you want them hunting on 2-acre parcels or tiny areas. So that's where we're at. We're at a decision on the Sherwood Forest. Do I call those people that apply and say that the permits are gonna be issued? Or do we not issue permits for there?
Sir?
I have one more question. If I have a parcel that butts up to Sherwood Forest, and I follow the DNR rules as far as house occupancy and that, would I be able to shoot a deer on my own property and then go on the Sherwood Forest, as long as I don't shoot it on Sherwood Forest? Can I shoot it on my own property?
I believe most hunting
Yeah.
allows you to pursue your
we don't have
wounded
it.
animal.
Because I'm just wondering if there's some I shouldn't say locals, people live there that want to shoot the deer and preserve them for themselves.
But
And
there's
we-
a minimum parcel size.
We don't have any control over that. The state has set regulations for,
Right, so
for
state rules.
bow hunting.
That's what I'll look at, thanks.
We don't have it posted to prohibit people from going on there to retrieve a
No,
deer.
as you guys say, no, I care less, but if I were a property owner, could I still shoot a bull in the town of Rome if I have permission?
Yes, as long as you have the clearances from other buildings that the state,
Yes.
we follow
Thank
the
you.
state law on that.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, I think we got
Thanks
some.
for listening.
Sure, you bet. You wanna come up with a motion on this one?
What is the motion? Essentially to exclude the Sherwood Forest property from
Yeah,
the
revisit the rest of the
discharge
year.
permits for 2021 season.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's
No.
carried. So, oh, you got something?
I was just saying, no.
Oh, okay.
Hope you guys are good shots.
I just wanna clarify for minutes then.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
3 ayes, 1
I
nay.
just wanna say one quick thing, the water utility did issue permit last year, or Jamie did, for 17 acres off of Somerset, so just so you know, there is a parcel over there. if you want.
Number 16, discussion of possible, and also we'll move that forward down the road, Jamie, for the rest of it, on a future agenda.
Yeah, I don't know that it needs to come back next month.
No.
Yeah.
We'll look at it though and do some thinking on it. Number 16, discussion of possible action, approval of. 17, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. 17, discussion of possible action, establishing a method to accept offers to purchase town-owned property.
So I did have a memo in the packet. I had brought this up at the end of the last meeting. It was thought maybe we should add it to a future agenda just to have a conversation about the process. I did have a memo in the packet. I'm not sure if Attorney Flanagan also has wants to speak on this, but just to kind of talk about how this works. So as town governance, the purchase of land and the disposal of land has to seek elector approval. So while we do have right now an offer to purchase a piece of land that's owned by the town, how the process would work is that would have to go on to an electors meeting, which we have one coming up. The electors would give permission to dispose of the property, and then how that disposal occurs comes back to the town board to decide. So we just kind of wanted to clarify that how that process would occur. So if the electors give approval to dispose of the property, that does not mean that it accepts the offer that we received. It just means that they would allow the town board to enter into that process and to eventually dispose of that property. Same thing if it was the purchase outside of Rome Town Center.
So we have to come up with a process.
Well, so just to clarify one thing, that's termed in the statutes and it's termed everywhere, anywhere really as a grant of authority. There's directives, there's grants of authority. This would be a grant of authority by the electors. It doesn't bind anybody to sell any property. In the past, up to now, as property is either offered, we receive an offer to purchase. I believe it's then the next step would be that we put it on an elector meeting to get authorization if the electors deem it appropriate. Then of course we proceed to consider that. There's been other instances where there's been a property trade, same kind of process. We've done it there too, but in large part, we haven't taken big chunks of property apart from, as I understand it, the Alpine Village originally. We got a larger, I think, grant of authorization, but in recent history, it's been as we received an offer, we start at the elector meeting to get a grant of authority if they'll provide it.
And the grant of authority is for specific parcels though, correct?
It is, yeah, and so that would be the issue, right? I mean, so technically, if the question or if the lead in there was to a larger question of could you get a grant of authority from the electors to a number of parcels, right, and get that in place? Well, yeah, if you listed all the town property that you'd be asking for that authorization for, note that is done by a resolution. Though the resolution, as I drafted, is always drafted as indefinite unless withdrawn. So the electors could at any point withdraw their grant of authority as long as it hasn't been disposed of at a previous point in time. So yes, technically, usually I think what happens is there's some kind of process. I mean, we have some parcels that might be dedicated to the public for a certain purpose, or, yeah, and so there is some internal review before it's even moved along. I mean, if it is bound with a restriction in some way, it's probably not even getting to you, because we're just informing them that there's a restriction. The specific property, I won't go into specifics about the offer. I will just say that the specific property came into the town's possession due to originally a special charge. Then it was blocked up with bankruptcy. Adams County offered it to the town, and the town accepted that for certain with certain amounts that had to be paid for survey and recording fees. And so that's the history of this particular parcel. But as you know, as you look at a whole bunch of different parcels, every parcel has a story, right?
Right.
And so it's harder when you do it as a whole. It's every parcel has a different story. This one has a very unique story, and you know, and so I don't know if you'd want to necessarily ask for authorization on a whole slew of properties unless you really determine that those were ones that you were going to market. But then, to Chairman's point, once you get authorization, you don't have to sell it. You can determine how you want to sell it. You can receive bids. That's the whole reason why we're not discussing particulars of it, because if you're going to receive bids, then so be it. Nobody is binding the way that you would dispose of the property. This would be an authorization to dispose of the property. Method and whether to is up to the town board.
So it has nothing to do with the marketing of any given property. Because here's the scenario that I'm looking at, and Kyle and I had looked at this a long time ago, is the town holds a lot of small acreage, like less than an acre parcels in random places, and it would make no sense for me, or to me, if we were to market a 0.15 acre parcel that's adjacent to somebody who's got a 40. It would make more sense to approach that landowner and say, are you interested in making an offer on this land, right? If we were to dispose of it, there's no need for the town to hold it.
Sure. So in those kind of instances, the process would look largely similar to what we're talking about here. I mean, if in those kind of instances, assuming they weren't restricted in some other way, that list could be put together, taken to the electors, grant of authorization, and market the property. I would not suggest marketing the property without getting elector authorization. That would in every way be putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if there's another piece, I think it's 0.05 acres down. It's either by the lure or by the dirty ore. 0.05 of an acre. I have no idea where that came from,
Well,
but it's there.
Can we do is there a different rule if we like just discontinue, if there was no money that exchanged hands per se, you just did a discontinuance of the property?
Okay, so in those kind of instances, so let's just say there was a dedication of public way. Okay, there's a process that is in place by statute under 66-1003 to actually vacate that dedication, right? Discontinue that public way. That's a different process. So if it was a dedication for highway purposes, that's under state statute. That's a very specific process, but that is because that is public way for highway purposes. And so in the instances that were brought up, very small amounts that you know are at play, those are probably not highway purposes that would be subject to this.
I have no problems approaching the electors for this one particular piece. The process, I'd like to discuss that further, but you know, I want to look at the property and, you know, is it something we even want to sell? But I think we need to look at that as well.
So if you're talking about the process that would happen afterwards, after that elector, absolutely, yeah. There's no timeline that's required to dispose of property, or the method. That's all of that is that process, that procedure, that is yours to make. Yeah. Yours as a board.
And I do believe we several years ago got permission to dispose of a piece of property that's owned by the water utility.
That was actually my next question.
Yeah, and we have not disposed of that property. I mean, we still have it, but we do have permission to dispose of it if at some point we wanted to.
So when you say that there's no time limit, do we can still sell it because we got approval already? We can sell that next year without getting another approval?
That's correct.
That's 2 parcels though still, right?
Yeah, that's true. And we did get both parcels approved.
Yeah.
We did it separately.
That's correct, with a resolution. That resolution has not been withdrawn by electors. You can still dispose of that today, tomorrow, or 10 years from now, as long as it hasn't been, that authorization hasn't been revoked.
But we've always sort of taken the starting point of this process is somebody approaches us, we ask them to put that offer in writing, and then we stimulate the process. We haven't at any point as a town board stimulated that process from within. We've just waited until someone has asked.
How often do we have elector meetings? I mean, we have this budget one coming up, and then there's like one in April, or,
Well, so you have your annual meeting,
Yeah.
that's gonna be your third Tuesday in April. You have your budget hearing and special electors meeting, so you have one there. And then you can have them as called by statute, you could have it called by a certain contingent of the electors, otherwise the board could set a special elector meeting.
Okay.
But past practice has been, we weren't recommending calling a special elector meeting as we get a offer to purchase property. That just, they'll have to wait until an elector meeting, and then we just put it on an agenda in that way.
makes sense.
Lori, you had a question?
Well, I think they've been answered, but if I can just share a comment.
Maybe this would be helpful, having served for almost 10 years on the property committee at the county level. If you come up with a future policy for town-owned property that is of value, two supervisors made very good points. If it's an adjacent property owner, like that obscure piece you had on Leisure Lane, and they need that for a driveway or what have you, of course you do that to them, ask them about it. But where I was going with this is that every year we dealt with tax deeded property. Granted, that's a little different, but it was an annual thing. So people knew when to look for that information if property was coming up for sale. And like Supervisor Minter pointed out, there's really only 2 elector meetings that people know of or something like that would come up. So you've got time, I guess, to deal with this one now, if it's the piece I'm thinking about. But then you've also got the spring one, which would be a perfect time to get all your ducks in a row, find the value of the lands that's worth anything. Something was landlocked at the county level. Of course, we didn't sell that. We asked maybe the 2 adjoining parcel owners if they wanted it, or gave it to whoever showed the first interest or covered the tax money for us. So there's policy that you could come up with that would at least put the larger pieces that people would be interested in but never thought to come and approach, thinking there was a policy in place. Then you could announce that, have it voted on at this meeting that gives you approval, and then in the spring at the annual meeting allow people to know what those properties are and have an open bidding process on the ones of value.
Okay,
Thank
thanks. I think maybe we look at what we do have and what we want, need, or future uses, and come up with a list on some of them for the April meeting. Just maybe have a whole list of ones. Say why do we even do this? We had that other landlocked one between LCPOA and Cranberry Commons or whatever. I mean, it's a piece of property that we can't even access it.
So in other instances, and actually just about any instance, there would be a thorough search to figure out any restrictions, the story to the parcel, right? If there's there may be a reason that we have it, and I can tell you,
donated for a
we
specific
have
purpose.
instances where the zoning administrator and I have looked at a parcel and there is very much a restriction on a parcel, and so that is going to take some time to go through, and it's going to take a scraping of the property record, if you will, to figure out what, if anything, is the history of that and how it came to be in the town's name. So there may be a lot of parcels that we're talking about here, or there may be a couple. If there's a couple, pretty easy process. If there's a lot, it's a bit more involved.
Future. All right, so
For this evening, what we would need to determine is for the parcel that we have an offer to purchase on, because tomorrow, because our train's moving fast, right? We need to get to the paper our legal notice for our elector meeting. So if we want to include the parcel that we have the offer to, that would be what we would be looking for guidance for tonight, because otherwise it waits until spring, right?
How large is that parcel?
2.27 acres.
Sounds like it's marketable. I would seek permission from the electors to sell, and then we'll figure out what we want to do from there.
I agree.
Okay.
Do I need a motion?
I don't know that you need a motion, we'll just note in the
I have
minutes.
consensus.
All right, good. Thank you. Dates and items for future agenda meetings, next agenda items.
So I'm gonna propose, this kind of goes into next meeting also, but, so the third Thursday would be the 21st, but we'll meet on the 28th for that budget hearing and elector meeting. My thought would be that we'll have, I think, at least 1 or 2 plan commission items. Plan commission's pretty short this month, actually. We could wait until the 28th, and we could have our next meeting immediately following the elector meeting, adopt the budget, and handle any other items that night.
Do we need to vote on anything with the ambulance contract before the budget meeting?
No.
We really wouldn't be able to
Yeah,
until
you wouldn't
we,
be able to.
yeah.
You wanna,
Oh, yeah,
I think
that's
you
true.
want that to come first. And just know, as Supervisor Goldman accurately stated, that we are working through what that agreement's going to look like. So it will be, we're working on ironing it out. And so it can come in kind of steady succession, I think, but you will want to have that budget approval first.
Then we would have a conversation that the very next week would be the 4th, which would be our first meeting in November. We may cancel that meeting and then go to the 18th, just depending on agenda items that would be needed. But likely we wouldn't have anything, in a week time frame.
I would just make note now for everybody, I'm unavailable the 3rd through the 8th.
So I was planning ahead for your schedule.
Yeah, good job.
3rd through the 8th?
So if we would be agreeable, there'd be, we held those 4 dates for budget hearings. Since we're in consensus of budget that will be presented, we would not meet on the 13th or on the 26th. The next meeting would be of town board would be on the 28th, immediately following the budget hearing and elector meeting. And then we would hold the 4th, and we can determine if we'd need a meeting on the 4th and the 28th.
Sure. Sounds like a plan.
Budget meeting be at 6.
Budget meeting is at 6, an hour later, yes. Budget meeting's at 6.
Can I get a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
Did somebody second that?
I didn't